This product page is the perfect example of terrible page speed. It shows all of the anti-patterns that we want to avoid. When we improve page speed, we improve every single part of our e-commerce business. And this page has a score of a 2, which is pretty much the worst you can get. The browser had to completely stop what it's doing for 5.7 seconds. And that's insane. We have no idea that the apps that we've installed are just destroying our page speed. You can see here that we have almost 17 seconds of script evaluation, 15.7 megabytes of transferred data, 347 requests. There are 1, 2, 3 different versions of jQuery loaded on the same page, which is nuts. They don't need jQuery to do their job. You know, I have 5 apps in the App Store. I don't need jQuery. I don't use it because it's my responsibility to protect your page speed. Yapo's massive app, huge market share, not a good app for your page performance. Right at the top of the page, we have these 2 scripts here, not good. We want to defer those. 350 requests means 350 prayers, outbound prayers for fast return, right? 12.9 megabytes of images on one page. We want the whole entire page to be below 3 megabytes. So 88 requests, 2 megabytes of JavaScript. 2 megabytes of compressed JavaScript. That's criminal. And part of this is because we have too many applications installed. All right. So what we're going to be doing today is we are going to perform a detailed page speed audit of a Shopify product page. And before we get started, I want to make it very clear, I have no affiliation with the brand that we're going to review. I just did a Google search for biggest Shopify stores, and I ended up here. And it just so happens that this product page is the perfect example of terrible page speed. It shows all of the anti-patterns that we want to avoid when we're working on our own stuff or helping other people. And to give you a little background, I have 5 apps in the Shopify App Store. All of my apps are focused on either performance or SEO. And you can learn more about my apps by going to williambelk.com. That's linked in the description of this video. And I really want to point out, I'd like everyone to download my newest app, which is called Rapid Reviews. It's the fastest product reviews app for Shopify, bar none. No one can compete. It delivers 5 to 30 times less data to the page than all the product reviews apps that you know of. And it has all the features you expect: deep search, photos and videos, questions and answers, email and SMS review prompts, all in an ultra light performance package that you don't see. And so I'm very proud of it. I'd like everyone to download it. Reach out to me directly. I can help you install it, or one of my staff can help you install it. And I really believe in the app so much that I think everyone that's using Shopify, if you need reviews, product reviews, you should be using Rapid Reviews. You should not be considering any other app. So let's get into what we're going to cover today. Let's talk about, why does page speed matter? When we improve page speed, we improve every single part of our e-commerce business. Bounce rate will go down. Time on page will likely go up. Number of pages per session will likely increase. We know that page speed is a ranking factor for SEO. But the big thing for bigger brands, the big thing that we care about is reducing ad cost. So if Google sends 2 ads, or excuse me, if Google serves 2 ads, they each generate a click. Google wants to send the visitor to the most performant page with the highest quality score. And so if your page is just faster than the next person and you have very similar content, Google knows the probability that that will be a more successful click. So either They will prioritize your competitor who has faster page speed, or they will charge your competitor less money, or a combination of the two, right? So you'll get less volume and you'll pay more. And so if you are spending $1 million a quarter on ads from different networks, lowering your page speed across the board could change your business. Quite literally could change your ad spend in a month. So we always hear page speed and SEO, page speed and SEO. So page speed is not the primary ranking factor for SEO. Relevant content, authoritative, helpful, relevant content is the number one thing. So they say content is king. Page speed is definitely important, okay? But page speed is a holistic improvement that we can make. So it makes our customers happier. It gives our customers more delight, right? Faster pages mean that we get the chemicals in our brain for like the success chemicals, right? So when we see something quickly, then we start to build a pattern of engagement where we expect things to happen faster and we do more, and it generates more trust with our visitors, right? So that's why we care about page speed. And then when we perform a page speed audit, I do this all the time. I do it for my sites. I do it for friend sites. I do it for my Shopify app customer sites sometimes. I do it for clients. And I see many big brands who spend less than 10 hours a year on page speed improvement. And that's not going to be sufficient moving forward. So page speed improvement has to be baked into every single decision that we make on our e-commerce store. You know, that's the way the world is working, right? The supply chain is ruined currently. So hopefully it'll recover soon. But effectively, the supply chain for e-commerce businesses is ruined. UPS, FedEx, in the United States anyway, UPS, FedEx, the Postal Service are all at their absolute limit. You know, losing packages, destroying packages, not picking up on time, all the different things, right? So UPS dropped their delivery promise, right? In terms of delivery times. So we have all of these pressures, and then we have pressure from the ad networks. So when we want to scale an e-commerce business to $100 million a year, we have to buy a lot of ads. And the ad attribution is a problem across the board, right? Everybody knows about iOS 14. So ad attribution is a massive problem. So we need to reduce our page speed so that we can help every single part of our business, right? So the customer that comes to our site and they get a faster experience, maybe they will forget that we delivered their package 4 days late, right? Or the customer that comes through an ad click and the page loads, let's say 400 milliseconds, which would be 0.4 seconds faster. Maybe that makes the difference between 100 customers who would have purchased. And maybe that tips our ad spend into the profitable direction, or, you know, the break-even direction. And so these are the things that we consider with page speed, not just SEO. SEO is great. You know, it's huge. I work on SEO all the time. And like I said, some of my apps are focused exclusively on SEO, but page speed goes everywhere. So every single person that touches our website has to think about page speed. That means the people who compress our images, the people who compress our videos, our developer, our marketer, our copywriter, every single person should be looking at page speed. And if they see something out of the ordinary, or let's say suboptimal, then they need to raise their hand and be heard. You know, what we want is, we want a commitment to excellence, a holistic commitment to excellence everywhere in the organization. It can't just be, you know, your developer that keeps raising his hand and saying, hey, guys, you have all these things that you could optimize and you have all these problems, but it's going to take 20 hours. And then people look at the budget and they say, nope, can't do it. Well, if it costs you, let's say 20 hours, let's say you're paying $150 to $200 an hour. So you pay $3-4 grand. If you're spending $1 million a quarter, you should carve off $10,000 a quarter at a minimum to improve page speed, So today, what we're going to cover, we're going to look at page speed insights. We're going to look at the inspector, net panel, console. We're going to search for errors. We're going to look at requests. We're going to look at the apps that are installed on this page. And that's going to be fun. And especially one of the apps we'll look at is their product reviews app. And we'll talk about why we don't like it. And we will look at the actual page code, the source, look for blocking requests. And then we'll look at images as well, talk about that. So let's get into it. So the first thing that I do when I look at a new page is I'll run it through PageSpeed Insights. And I've already done that here to save time. And this is a nice kind of high level. It gets my brain moving in the right direction of where does this page currently sit? So the mobile score on Google PageSpeed Insights means a simulated slow mobile connection. And this page has a score of a 2, which is pretty much the worst you can get. It can't get much worse than this. And this means that it's the bottom 2% of all websites that Google knows about, which is absolutely terrible. And so, usually I'll just kind of scroll around a little bit and I'll show you what I start to pick out. So one of the first values that I look at is total blocking time. And what this means is that during the render of this page, the browser had to completely stop what it's doing for 5.7 seconds. So milliseconds is 1,000 milliseconds to a second. So 5,730 means 5.73 seconds. So the browser stopped what it was doing completely to wait for a request or an operation to finish for 5.7 seconds. And that's insane. That's really, really bad. And I know that this is a simulated, slow connection, but if Google's tracking performance on this type of device, we really need to pay attention because they're telling us, hey, this is our most important browser profile, okay? Whether we like it or not. I have a fiber connection, okay? But not everyone does. And, when people are first introduced to our brand, it may not be, in the ideal, they may not be at work where they have a crazy, full-blown fiber connection or something like that. They might be on their phone. They might get a link from a friend. They may click an ad from Facebook or Instagram, And so we see 5.7 of blocking time. We see 5.7 seconds of blocking time. We don't like that. And we're going to go into why some of this is happening, And then another value that we really, really don't like is 30.9 seconds time to interactive. So time to interactive means Google says, we keep seeing JavaScript executing on this page and we're not sure if the page is finished and if everything is available. So many of our sites have external library dependencies or widgets or apps installed, and especially for Shopify, a lot of shops have tons of apps. So they may have 10, 15 apps installed that are controlling little modules on the website, especially on the product page. And so those apps can just they load stuff in the background. We don't see it unless we look for it in the code or in the net panel. And then we have no idea that the apps that we've installed are just destroying our page speed, right? And so when we scroll down on PageSpeed Insights, we'll start to see other recommendations. And most of them are really good, and once we dig in, we'll see why Google's saying this. So properly sized images, we're going to get into that big time. And let's see what else we have here. Avoid enormous network payloads, massively related to images. Minimize main thread work. Okay, so you can see here that we have almost 17 seconds of script evaluation. That means that the browser is using incredible amounts of brain power to take the scripts that are loading on the page, parse them, and let's say, parse them and put them in memory so that they're available for the browser window or the browser tab. And let's see, what else do we have here? Reduce the impact of third-party code. Usually what we see here are blocking requests, blocking script requests, and we're going to look at a few examples of that on the page in question here. Reduce JavaScript execution time. So this is kind of, again, we're back on the JavaScript is doing things to the page that we don't understand narrative, right? So you can see all of these script evaluation times. And a lot of this stuff, I bet you if you talk to the people that work on the site would have no idea that these things are even loaded. And many of these things are loaded by third-party applications. So that's Google PageSpeed Insights. Score of a 2 out of 100, which is absolutely terrible. But the great thing is with this page is that if it wasn't this bad, we wouldn't be able to learn all the things that we're going to learn. So we wouldn't be able to use it as the perfect example of terrible page speed. So after I go to Google PageSpeed Insights, I will usually open the inspector in Chrome. So I am in Chrome. And then I'll refresh the page by clearing cache. And sorry, it's overwhelming how good of an example this page is. So 15.7 megabytes of transferred data. Okay. 347 requests. Ideally, if we really wanted to be hardcore, this page would be under 2 megabytes. You know? And so just look at this, 15.7 megabytes. That's so crazy. So when we look at the data transferred, we see two different values. So we see 15.7 megabytes transferred, and we see 22.1 megabytes of resources. So the first number is compressed information. So a lot of people will compress the data, send it to the browser, allow the browser to unpack it or uncompress it, right? So the number that we really want to care about is 15.7 megabytes. And so I look at that and I say, okay, why is that happening? Right? What's going on? So I'll go through the sequence of things that I always look for. The first thing that I do is I look for jQuery. So jQuery is a JavaScript library, third-party JavaScript library. It's very helpful. It saves developers a lot of time, but it's a massive performance problem for most people. Okay. So in order to write JavaScript using jQuery methods or functions, we have to load jQuery first. And if jQuery takes a long time to load just because of natural network latency, we've just shaved off, or excuse me, we haven't shaved off. We've added, 0.4, 0.8 seconds to our rendering time. And that's 0.4, 0.8 seconds where absolutely nothing can happen. So here we see there are 1, 2, 3 different versions of jQuery loaded on the same page, which is nuts and very, very common. I see it all the time. That's why I look for it. So I say, okay, how many lazy developers? One is, I can understand from the brand perspective. The brand's developer says, I want to use jQuery because it saves time. Okay, fair enough. Not the best choice. Definitely the lazy option, but understandable. When a third-party app developer is using jQuery, that's criminal. It's not okay. It's not acceptable for someone to load an additional 40K of a JavaScript library to your page because they're lazy. Because they don't need jQuery to do their job. I have 5 apps in the App Store. I don't need jQuery. I don't use it because it's my responsibility to protect your page speed. And so what I would hope a lot of store owners will start to do is put pressure on these app developers to get better and stop using external library dependencies. A lot of these app developers will be using polyfills. They'll be, injecting fonts onto your page. They'll be injecting jQuery onto your page. They'll be doing all kinds of lazy stuff that if they just stopped and said, okay, what's best for my customer, they would never do these things. But no one puts pressure on them because, it takes quite a bit of experience and understanding to know what to look for, to see how these apps are operating. So here we see 3 jQueries on one page. This jQuery, the bottom one, is injected from Shopify product reviews. That's an app that they're not even using. So someone installed Shopify product reviews in the App Store and never deleted it. And it's still injecting JavaScript. So it's injecting an entire JavaScript package, which is 34.7K, onto every single page of their entire site. All the time, 24/7, every page request. Not good, okay? Here we have a jQuery from Cloudinary. Cloudinary is a great app. I use it for some of my stuff. It shouldn't be on this page. I don't know why it's on this page. I'm sure it's coming from a third-party library or a third-party app. And this is probably from the theme itself. And then we have jQuery Form, which is another jQuery package. It's not like the full jQuery. And this is installed by Klaviyo. Again, we just don't like to see this. It's not good. None of these things are good, okay? So that's where I start. And then the second thing I'll do is I'll say, okay, what kind of fonts are they loading? Excuse me, WOFF. So WOFF is the font format for websites to do custom fonts and things like that. So here we have 11 font files being loaded, 351K. Crazy, okay? And you can see, we're loading medium, demi-bold, bold, extra bold. Do we need all that? Maybe we only need medium and bold. Or maybe we need to make an executive decision to say that we're only going to allow for medium and bold. We don't need all these font weights. It's not worth the performance cost. And so here we have Font Awesome, which is, let's see, I think that's from the core CSS. We have another Font Awesome. So we have 2 Font Awesomes being loaded on the exact same page. Again, the exact same problem with jQuery. Very common. I see it all the time. So we have a third-party application installing the exact or requesting the exact same font library or font file that's already on the page. It's just, 4.7 version here, 4.5 version here. Who cares? Both of those should be removed, right? So we look for fonts. This is not ideal, not good at all. Let's see. Sorry, I have some notes here. It's so much to go over. And then I will do a couple things after this. So I will look at some common apps that I know. So, I'll search for Klaviyo, see what Klaviyo is doing. So Klaviyo over the years has been a pretty big offender of page speed. It's gotten a little better, but I always like to look. So one app that you can look at to remove Klaviyo from your newsletter signups would be one of my apps called API Helper. The whole entire library is less than 2K, and it helps you with Ajax subscriptions. So when someone signs up for your newsletter, you have a pop-up. You could write your own custom ultralight pop-up and then use API Helper to connect to the Klaviyo API. So this page is using Yotpo for product reviews. Yotpo's massive app, huge market share. Not a good app for your page performance. Not good at all. So you can see Yotpo is making 15 requests and loading 195K of data to the page. So again, we said we'd like this page to be under 2K. We would like this page to be under 2 megabytes. In ultimate ideal, under 3 megabytes, I think is pretty reasonable, especially if you have a lot of images and high quality imagery. So Yotpo is loading 195K, and Yotpo is loading a font. Let's see how big that font file is, 12.7K. So to give you a comparison and an idea of where Yotpo exists compared to my app, which is Rapid Reviews, available at williambelk.com or the Shopify App Store, whatever. williambelk.com has more of the information about features and things like that. So just one file, Yotpo's font file, is the same size as my entire application payload. Okay? The entire application payload for Rapid Reviews is under 13K. So, and it's, the number of requests that it takes to load Rapid Reviews, I think, is like 3, 4, 5 requests. And I think 2 or 3 of those are images for icons. Okay. So that's where Yotpo exists versus Rapid Reviews. So again, when we look at all these examples, we say, okay, where are we? Where could we be? So we're way, way up high with our page speed profile where it's very slow. We have all kinds of garbage on the page. Well, we could be way down here if we take the time to review every single thing that's happening on the page. And product reviews is a massive offender of page speed on many different sites for all different types of reasons. So, your looks, your Stamped, your Judge Me, your Okendo, your Yotpo, your Ali reviews. These are not very performant apps. So I want everyone to install Rapid Reviews. Go to williambelk.com or the Shopify App Store. Look for Rapid Reviews. Reach out to me personally. I'll help everybody. Everyone should be using my app. The pricing is really great. There's a free trial. I think the free trial is 21 days. But yeah, it'll help your page speed. It'll help that component of your page speed, and then you can move on to other things that you may be doing that could be optimized. So we'll look at another app. So Signified, Signified. So this is another fraud application. So you can see 12 requests, 60K. Third-party applications downloaded from the Shopify App Store are one of the biggest offenders of page speed. They sometimes destroy the page speed of a Shopify store, and the shop owner or the brand owner or the marketer, they have no idea that it's happening. They have no idea that it's happening, and they don't have faith in how good it could be and how much money they could save on their ad spend and improve, their organic SEO and their customers, just make their customers happier, right? Another thing that I like to see and kind of visualize is I will refresh the page and then I'll look at this graph here in the middle. So where my cursor is. So we can start to visualize how all the requests are happening over time. And we see 2 big clusters of requests here, one around 3 seconds and then another around 4 seconds, right? And so what that means is our third-party applications or our third-party scripts that we've either had Shopify inject for us through the async load or that we've added ourselves like Google Tag Manager or these sorts of things. And they've spawned up a bunch of other requests. So at 4 seconds into the page load, we just have all these things happening that maybe we didn't even realize, 3, 4 seconds. So we're looking at 34 requests after 4 seconds. This is Clevu. We see Google Ads. That's kind of our conversion pixel stuff. We see Signified. We've talked about that app. So this is an easy, helpful way to visualize how many things are happening way past where we think they might. And Google, that time to interactive value that we talked about with Google, when these things just keep popping up further and further and further down the line into the page load, Google's saying, oh, there's all kinds of potentially essential stuff happening in the background that's not completed yet, right? And so we really don't like that. And one other thing that I forgot to mention previously that I always do, this is one of the first things that I do, and I forgot to bring it up, is I look at JavaScript errors on the page. And I encourage everyone to look at this. It's a really easy way to see what's happening behind the scenes that might be really bad. So we see the Afterpay pixel or JavaScript file generating a fatal error somewhere, right? So we would want to contact the app developer, in this case, Afterpay, and say, hey, what's going on? And then we see here, I think this would be our own JavaScript that we've added. So our developer is logging messages to help them debug something, right? And we don't want any messages here in the console. We want 0 messages in the console. So all of these messages cost brain power from the browser. And sometimes they alert us to big errors that we've made in the code, or one of our third-party applications is making in our code, right? So that's another thing that we really want to keep an eye on, is the console. Look for errors, look for messages. Again, every one of these messages cost brain power from the browser to log out. And sometimes these messages that we've added, sometimes they'll have an incredible amount of data added to memory. So it may be at least referenced in memory. So it's basically telling the browser, okay, we want to have this data available here so that it can be inspected, and that costs resources always. So we've looked at some of the apps here, and then the next thing that I want to go over is I want to talk about these blocking requests that we saw referenced, or blocking time that we saw referenced in Google PageSpeed Insights. And a lot of that comes from blocking script requests. So if I just do a search for script, this is the page source that was loaded. So these are not injected scripts. These are all the scripts that are included in the shop theme in Liquid. So we see right at the top, 2 blocking requests for dynamic yield. And what this means is that the browser will not do anything. It will not render anything until these are completed. So this is telling the browser, this script tag is so essential that I don't want you to do anything until it's done loading and parsed and into memory. So this should be either an asynchronous request or a deferred request. So on all script tags, many of you can add async or defer. So async should be used for anything that is an essential component for rendering. Defer should be used for anything that's not essential. So for me personally, all marketing tags should be deferred. All of them. Because I never want to sacrifice customer experience for tracking. That's just me personally, right? Because if a person likes my page, they enjoy the content that I'm serving them, they'll stick around and they'll do things and they'll perform more actions, right? How long does it take for a customer to consume all the content on a page that's interesting to them and then take an action like click to another product? Let's say they land on a collection page. Then they want to click to another product. Then they eventually add to cart. That takes a lot of time. If our pixels don't fire in that amount of time, then who cares? Something, some error scenario happens, some fatal error scenario. So we never want to add our pixels this high up and depend on the network to fulfill those requests. Because these 2 requests right here expose us to massive natural latency on the network, right? Cloudflare gets blown up every single hour of every single day with some weird DDoS attack, hacking, security issue, SSL problems, all the different things, right? So we never want to expose ourselves to additional natural network latency, right? So right at the top of the page, we have these 2 scripts here, not good. We want to defer those. Maybe we need to make them async. I don't know, but I would want them deferred in an ideal scenario. And then here we have on line 322, we have Google Tag Manager blocking requests. Google's great. Don't trust their network speed, right? It's just natural network latency. We want to avoid that at all costs. Line 337, Google Tag Manager blocking request. And that means, again, the browser will do nothing until this is completed, right? And we don't like to see that at all. So let's do some search for more tags here. So we have some inline JavaScript, some JSON data, more JavaScript. Here we have a couple deferred requests, which is fine. We like that in general. let's see what else we have. We have Google Ad Network conversion JavaScript file. Blocking request. Again, we don't want these to be blocking. Make them async at a minimum, defer them if you can, but do not allow these to be blocking requests because, again, that's just going to stop the browser from doing anything that it's doing until this is done, right? And again, we cannot trust the network latency. Anytime a request goes out, it's at risk from being slowed down because of whatever reason. DNS, the server's overwhelmed, that's returning it. It's not cached. The cache was cleared. Then it has to go to the server. Then the server says, oh, I have all these other tasks I'm bogged down with. Give me an extra 120 milliseconds, okay? And then all this stuff starts to add up. And if you're making like this page that we're looking at, 350 requests. 350 requests means 350 prayers, outbound prayers for fast return, right? That's where we're at these days. So let's see, what else do we have? We have another script here, Afterpay, another blocking script. So, this should be deferred, async, deferred ideally, async at a minimum. Afterpay should not be a critical rendering component of your page, right? It just should not be. And if you were to set this tag to async or defer, and then you see JavaScript errors in the console, call Afterpay, tell them to stop being lazy and fix their code because their code is trash. If that's the case, I'm not saying that's the case, but if that's the case where you say, I want to do the best thing for my page, and then it breaks the JavaScript on your page or it's throwing a JavaScript error, then you put pressure on the app developer and you say, listen, we know the best thing for us is this, and you are doing this. So, put pressure on these app developers, right? And I know that a lot of these apps are fantastic. They save people time. I know there's great people that work at the app development companies, but a lot of these apps in the Shopify App Store are built by either young or outsourced developers. And young or outsourced developers just don't have the experience to know how, they don't have the discipline or the experience or the will to pursue the level of excellence sometimes that they need in the modern world with all of these different risks that we have to our business, right? So that's the explanation of the blocking script tags, and those are blocking requests, and those slow down the page render, right? And so now we are going to get into images, and this is, again, all of these examples that I'm showing you are super common, and we are going to get into why would anyone load a 3.2 megabyte image on the page. Okay, so if we look at images alone on this page, we filter by, you see IMG here, we can filter to see all the images. 12.9 megabytes of images on one page. We want the whole entire page to be below 3 megabytes, and we're loading 13 megabytes of images. And that just means someone messed up and someone's being lazy and there's not enough oversight on the code. So either a third-party application is doing this to us or we've done it to ourselves. And so let's look at where on the page these massive images are happening. So let's see here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can get our old layout. Scroll down. Oh, again, I don't think so the page looks like this. So the page is pretty traditional e-commerce page, product page. We have reviews at the bottom. We have recommended products. We have kind of a bundle feature. And so if we inspect the main image on the page here, so this main image, you can see this is not so bad. It is specified in the code as 800 by 1200 pixels. It's not too bad. 183 We could get that smaller, but we're not going to go into that this time. So these main kind of hero product images or product gallery or product image gallery is not so bad. And then we get into, make a little space here. So we come down, we have inside the bundle. So I guess this must be some kind of bundled product. And here's where things get interesting. So this image right here, we can see it highlighted, 3.2 megabytes. All that means is that whoever built this feature did not ask Shopify to serve an optimal, like resize the image to an optimal size. And so they're serving the raw image as it was uploaded to Shopify, which is usually high quality and huge, right? 3.2 megabytes. The raw size of this image is 4,400 pixels by 4,400 pixels, is a square image, right? So if we click this image, and we'll see, if I open this image by itself, I refresh the page, you can see 3.2 megabytes, right? If I go in and I say, okay, Shopify, give me, I think for the placement that we see for this image, we could probably do it 300 by 300. So I just took a 3.2 megabyte image. All I did was resize it and ask for the correct size. And Shopify gives me a 32K image. So this is just laziness. You know, like poor attention to detail, commitment to non-excellence. So let's go back to our page. So this is one place where they're just loading raw images. And it's just way too much. It's just bad. It's just bad, lazy and bad. And so if we scroll down, let's look at these others have bought section. So these images. So this is an image that was uploaded to Shopify small, and that's the only reason that it's coming in, because this is also a section where all of these images here are not resized by Shopify. So in the liquid code, we're not asking Shopify to give us a smaller image. So again, 790K for an image, 2,400 pixels. This should be, I don't know, at the most 600 by 600. Again, this would be a 20 or 60K image, something like that, instead of 790. So this whole entire row, all of these images here are all served up raw with no resizing, you know? In some cases, the images were uploaded to Shopify and are a little smaller. And in other cases, they're big, they're huge. So again, we have a 784K is effectively 1 megabyte image. And they're all over the place, right? And so at the bottom of the page, we have Yapo. We've talked about Yapo. If you're using Yapo, install Rapid Reviews. You can import all of your existing reviews into Rapid Reviews very easily. I can help you personally, or one of my staff can help you. Install Rapid Reviews. You'll save tons of money against Yapo, and you'll have a much better product that will protect your page speed. Okay? And the last thing that I want to look at here, because we've gone over a ton of stuff. The last thing that I want to look at is the amount of JavaScript that is loaded on this page. We talked a little bit about this when we looked through the page speed insights from Google. Okay, so I just refreshed the page, cleared the cache. Let's see here. I cleared the cache and I I filter just by JavaScript loaded to the page. So 88 requests, 2 megabytes of JavaScript, 2 megabytes of compressed JavaScript. That's criminal. Okay. That's not okay. And some of this is due to third-party applications spawning additional requests. And so if we sort by largest JavaScript payload, we see Afterpay 197K, unacceptable. Not much we can do about that, but I would contact them and say, why are you loading so much data to my page? Stop. Load less. Like I said, my whole entire JavaScript, my whole entire payload for Rapid Reviews, my product reviews app, 13K, under 13K. Afterpay says they need almost 10 times that to do their job. Right? That's ridiculous. That's lazy. That's just a commitment to non-excellence. Same exact type of idea here. So we go down. Look at all these requests. Pixels. Just garbage, right? And part of this is because we have too many applications installed. We're using Clarity, the Microsoft product. Why do we need Google Analytics and Clarity? What is Clarity giving us that Google Analytics doesn't have? Maybe it's heat maps or something like that. Do we even use them? I can tell you 100%. If a company is this lazy in their code, they're not looking at the data well either, right? So they lose privileges immediately. If I'm helping a client and you want me to install Hotjar and Clarity and Google Analytics, then you've let me know that you cannot be trusted, because you haven't said, I've looked in Google Analytics and I can't find XYZ. Am I missing something, or do I need an additional app? They just send me a pixel and say, hey, I want to install Clarity. And then I ask them why. What do you not have that makes you need an additional application? And then when I ask them that, almost all the time, they have no answer and they don't install the additional application, right? And so when we see all these scripts, one other thing that I wanted to show you, this async load function is
Shopify's
method for injecting scripts and resources from a third-party application. And so when you install Klaviyo and you check the box that says it's okay for you to inject your JavaScript onto my store, this is usually the method that they use. And this is the older method, and a lot of this is getting deprecated, or people are moving on to the new ways of doing things through the app blocks. But I want you to see this because many stores have applications that are installed that are still using this method. Many, 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 many stores. Very, very, very common, right? So we're going to just look here in the console, these requests. So we have Signified, which is a fraud app. We have Shopify product reviews, which we've already established the pages are not even using. So this just means someone forgot to uninstall it and they don't understand that it's injecting a script onto their app. We have Clevu. And then all of these spawn additional requests. So these 7 requests or script tags that are injected, or resource tags that are injected into our site, are then spawning n number of requests each. So they say that's how they work. So the script tag, they inject the script tag, and then that script tag loads eventually. And then that script tag says, okay, cool. I need these 9 resources. I need these 25 resources to do my job. So then 1 becomes 20. And if 1 becomes 20 for each of these, then we have a massive problem, right? So here we have a quiz loader. We have Snapchat. We have Refersion, which is probably some sort of ad network or marketing attribution. So let's just look at this Clevu script, right? So if I'll just type it in. So let's look for Clevu. So this Clevu script, you can see, spawns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 or 5 requests, right? At a minimum. And then, you see a GIF. See a font that it loads. And this is really common. So let's go back to our list and let's pick out another one. So let's use Signified. Script-tag.js. Okay. Boom. 10 requests. 10 requests that it spawns up. Let's try Yotpo. Widget.js. Oh my gosh. That looks like 20 requests to me, right? So when we install these third-party applications, these guys are just igniting our browsers with additional requests that we don't even understand, we don't know about, right? So again, this is the Yotpo example. I will encourage you again to install Rapid Reviews. Save tons of money, save your page speed, have all the features that you like and more. And reach out to me directly. Go to williambelk.com and learn more about all of my apps, and especially Rapid Reviews. It's the best. I want everyone to use it, you know. And so I think we've covered enough here with this page. And, you know, in closing, I would just like to say, I would like to apologize to ColourPop. I don't know anyone there. I'm sure there are a lot of great people, but this page is terrible. You guys need to do a better job. And I hope that, you know, this brand can, if they see this video, they can take this and say, oh, wow, you know, maybe we haven't been paying enough attention. Maybe we can do a lot better, you know. And most of us are in this case. You know, most Shopify brands, big brands, they just take everything for granted and they think that Shopify does everything perfectly automatically. You know, it takes work. So if you were to build your own $100 million or $50 million e-commerce brand from scratch, you know, your development budget a year might be $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year just for personnel alone, right? So a lot of these brands are paying $2,000 a month for Shopify Plus, another $1,000 to $1,500 a month for apps. And then a lot of these brands, they'll go to the developer and they'll say, hey, we want our page performance to be much better. And then the developer will say, cool. After reviewing your site, like just what we did here, we did a detailed audit. I might tell ColourPop, okay, I think it's going to be 20 to 50 hours to get things much better. And they're going to look at that and say, oh my gosh, 20 to 50 hours, that could be $5,000, $6,000, $10,000. That's too much money. If you're making $50 million a year and you want to compete and you want to make more money and you want to create a holistic improvement to your entire business by improving your page speed, you know, $10,000 is nothing. And especially when you have this much lack of oversight or lack of attention to detail, you have a lot of debt that you've accumulated. So you've gone from $10 million to $30 million a year in e-commerce revenue. You're going to accumulate debt along the way, right? So that needs, you know, the system needs to be clean. The code needs to be clean. Some of the apps need to be uninstalled. Some of the apps need to be replaced. Like for product reviews, that's a perfect example. You don't have to use Yotpo. You use it because you're comfortable with it, and I understand. But that's an old app with an old code base, you know, and they show you in their performance profile how much they care about their customers, right? So I'm going to leave it here. Hopefully soon I will post up some new videos with other things that I kind of trip out on that I'm interested in. And I hope you like this video, and I hope it's helpful, and I hope it encourages you to pay a little bit more attention and get a little bit more serious about page speed.